Beautiful, bro. It's really,
Peace.
really beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Peace to you. Peace to you. Peace to anybody that may show up here in the future and watch this. I'm just finishing typing a comment. And here, let me finish writing this real quick. Give them a chance to be here while we are live. No typer. Thanks. And cool. Okay. Looks like it posted a couple. So, yeah. So, what's up, everybody? You're here. This is the Raw. This is a show called The Anonymous. The Anonymous is a place where me and friends of mine can talk about things that, personal things that we all go through, things that are sometimes harder to deal with. But you know what? We all have these things going on. A lot of people hold on to things and tend to, keep things for various reasons, keep things inside, whether they're not ready to deal with it yet, or they don't know how to process, or whatever the case may be. They, just can't get around to dealing with the things. So I'm hoping that having some chats with some folks in this way will let people hear that you're not alone. And I know for a fact this channel has barely any subscribers, and I promise that this video will eventually find someone and it may save their life. So that is what this is about. It's just about community. It's about real relationships with real people, men forming relationships with other men, and that's really what we're here for. So A1 is here with me. We're calling him A1 because it's important that everybody feels like, they have total freedom to speak how they want to speak. That's where we're at. What you were just hearing was A1 playing his upright piano, which has an amazing story all on its own. And this piano has come to him in, has really helped him in a lot of ways. So that's where we're at. We're going to do this as long as we feel like it. And it could go 10 minutes, it could go weeks, who knows? And that's what we're here for, is just to try. Right, my man?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, well, uh, it might be important. I don't know if it is, but it might be important to tell people, uh, like how did we meet? How did we come to this? Do you want to give any background on how we came to this point on from your
Well, we met from one of your other videos.
say that
The
again?
video we met when on from one of your other videos.
Yes.
The video where you said you had you sitting on a balcony, I think, and you said you hadn't been out and seen a sunrise or a sunset in a while.
Right. I did. I
But
I
you know, you
hadn't even seen.
that video go ahead.
I just said that I hadn't even really seen the sun in like 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but that video, it hit home with me and it touched me in a way. I felt, the sincerity of the video. And I reached out and we've been
Building.
bouncing ideas off of each other and building ever since.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it was a
And
good thing.
yeah, definitely was a good thing. And you reached out to me at a time where, you know what, I probably needed it too. I probably needed to know that those words weren't for nothing. And it's always great to connect with new people and find new people. And there are, we do have some people here, so I just want to say hi. If you're here, thank you. So we're just having a chat. And really,
Hello everyone. Peace.
yeah, yeah. And so what we're really doing here is gonna let the discussion go where it goes. But the interesting thing is that music, in a nutshell, has brought us, you know, from the universe together, right? And that's what is so interesting to me, is people can be from all over the world, and we share a love. Man, you told me about back in the day, about how you were taught by I think you were saying by your uncle, right? About paint of airbrushing and stuff like that, and the DJ stuff. I want to talk a little
Yeah.
about
Well, it was two of my uncles, right? I grew up in the South in a broken home, single parent home, and then wind up getting left with my grandparents. So I grew up with my grandparents from about 8 until, I left when I was a teenager. But
that. Right.
I had two uncles, you know, two of my mom's brothers. One was an artist and the other one was real big in the music. He really wasn't a DJ per se, but he had all of the DJ stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was pretty much doing house back in the day. And that's how I learned how to DJ and mix two records on time and in sync with each other. He was the one that taught me that. And this is before hip hop, disco and stuff was popular then. But when I learned those techniques from him, hip hop just started, you know what I'm saying? So I kind of like adapted right on into hip hop once we learned the different techniques on how to find the breaks, create the loops from two different records. We had a conversation I showed you where you can actually make a loop from one record.
Real loops.
You know, Yeah, but it involves some scratching back in the day. But if you time it right, you can create a loop just from a scratch and a snare hit. So
Yeah.
that was my beginning of hip hop. But I had another uncle that was very well established artist. So by the time I'm a teenager, 13, 14, I'm already painting portraits and graffiti and hip hop and DJing, So I I kind of was doing it all, but I got involved in street life around 15, 16 years old, and got involved in all kind of mess, man. But I was in a relationship, had a kid, at a teenager, so
Teenager, right.
but I started working as an artist with my uncle. He had an art and graphic store. So I grew up doing that, you know what I mean? I
Hmm.
couldn't go to school. I had a kid to take care of, so I learned how to airbrush and paint and do a lot of graphic designs, and I grew up doing that.
And this painting that
And
you're looking at right now, this is one of A1's Bob Ross paintings, right? This is you called it the Bob Ross painting, but you didn't know that this is a Bob Ross painting till recently. Is that right? Or am I getting that part right?
no, actually, it's two paintings like that. That's mine, but my son, my 17-year-old, a few weeks ago, he told me he wanted to paint, and I mean, they knew that I've been an artist the majority of my life, so it was a shocker for him to come and ask me, hey, let's go paint, because I hadn't painted in about 10, 15 years. And, I'm giving him this crazy look like, what you talking about?
Where'd this come from?
But he wanted to go and paint, so I'm like, okay, we go and paint. I got some canvases. I still got paint, so we go and do so. I said, what you got in mind? And he said, I want to do this Bob Ross painting.
That's so weird, bro. That
Yeah.
just like a crazy, it's crazy how the universe works. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Continue on.
So he pulls up this Bob Ross painting, and it's the Aurora Lights or the Northern Lights, and it's painted like this. And I'm like, well, let's go ahead on and give it a shot, because I know that I grew up watching Bob Ross, you know what I mean? So I know a lot of his painting techniques and his painting style because I use it a lot throughout my art career. So I knew, okay, it's gonna be some simple techniques, wet on wet, wet paint theory, like you say.
Right.
And that's what we did. I was shocked because Bob Ross really doesn't have a whole lot of dark background paintings,
Right.
you know. And I was like, well, yeah, I never tried one of his dark backgrounds, so yeah, let's go ahead and try it. And yeah, that's the results of it right there. So I didn't even know they had a Bob Ross challenge or anything. My son was the one that requested this particular painting.
That's
And we put the video on and we followed all of the steps, just like Bob Ross said. Of course, they got a few extra colors in mind,
right.
but
What about the time?
for the most part, it's the same techniques in the video and stuff. Because I'm a very big fan of Bob Ross. I still don't even know what the Bob Ross challenge is, to be honest.
So it's for I think it was for leukemia. I'm not positive if that was the original source of the inspiration behind the Bob Ross challenge, but the
Okay.
original Bob Ross challenge was it was to promote a foundation that Bob Ross believed in, and you would take
Hmm.
one of his shows, and this is something that was implemented after his passing. So he believed in. I'm not sure if he passed away from leukemia or just had a close relationship to it. I can't remember that part. But the people that around him, his family and whatnot, thought it would be a good idea to challenge people. I think it started out with somebody on social media, and then celebrities started doing it, where they would put a single video up, a 30-minute video, and that's all the time they get. And you don't get to stop or hit pause. You just got to do what he does, and then you're
Mhm.
supposed to submit the result, the video,
Right.
by posting it on your social media and putting the hashtag Bob Ross Challenge,
Okay.
and then they'll see it. So that was your initial challenge. I think it's super dope that you did a Bob Ross challenge without knowing that the Bob Ross challenge even was a thing.
Oh no, man, I'm a big fan of Bob Ross. I mean, I owe a lot of my career to him,
Mm,
because I grew up watching Bob Ross. Here in the South, he played on the public broadcasting channel every Saturday, so once I finished with the cartoons, I knew Bob Ross was coming on every Saturday. So, his paintings are very familiar to me. I've done hundreds of them.
damn. That's
Yeah.
great, man. That's great. We're gonna share more of that, in the future. I would like to do another Bob Ross painting. Maybe we can do one. Maybe we can do one together sometime. That'd be
Yeah.
cool.
Sound
Um,
like a plan.
yeah, because I mean, we could do it, even virtually, just between two people without anybody else. It's just one of those things we can do now. The technology, it's
Yeah.
pretty damn dope. But yeah, so Bob Ross has been a big factor for you, just in and out of life without even really putting that much thought into it.
Right.
And I think that
Right.
that kind of stuff, you realize these things kind of after the fact. And your piano too, man, your upright piano that you were playing has a lot of significance, like
Yeah.
you didn't know it at the time, um,
No.
but it came
See,
to be something very, very important to you.
yeah, that's another part of my upbringing, because my uncle that was the DJ, his wife was a pianist. And this is the guy that babysitted me when nobody else
Right.
wanted to put up with me. I was stuck at his house. But I mean, I didn't mind because he had all the music, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I just started messing with stuff, and when she'd make me stop scratching the records, like they used to call it back in the day,
Right.
she'd make me sit at the piano. So, I had toys to play with. But yeah, so later on in my life, my firstborn, he got into a drowning accident in Mississippi. So he fell on the side of the pool and hurt his hip, and he wound up falling over in the pool. Now they managed to rescue him, but he had been dead for like 7 or 8 minutes, I want to say. But they brought him back, but
It's crazy.
it left him in a coma, right?
Mm,
So he stayed in a coma for 7 years before his body finally shut down and he passed away. And that was a hard thing for me to go through as a parent and a father. Like, I was at work at the time this happened, you know what I mean? So
mm,
I started feeling a lot of guilt and blame, and eventually it led me to turning to drugs.
mm.
And I struggled with depression and all of these things for years, man, after that happened. It wasn't until one day I was sitting in his bedroom and I had a keyboard in there that he used to play all the time, you know. Um,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there looking at this keyboard, and I started playing the keyboard, but I started crying at the same time, you know. So I'm playing this keyboard and I'm crying, but I don't want to stop playing the keyboard because it's like if I stop playing, I'm gonna just cry and cry and cry, you know what I mean? So I
It
kept
felt
playing
good.
the keyboard and I kept crying.
Right.
Finally, I stopped crying, but I kept playing the keyboard, you know. And later on that night, you know, I kind of felt a little relieved because the music has that type of healing ability. You know, music is power. And I mean, that was one of the points in my life where I really learned and recognized the importance of sound, you know, in music and how it can change a person's emotions. You know what I mean?
Powerful, bro.
So, I mean, instead of me spiraling into a deep depression at night and probably going out and doing drugs and whatnot, that music had the ability to stop that downward spiral. You know what I mean? So it kind of just like paused everything, and I was able to not go that route that night, you know. And as I thought about it, I kept going back to that keyboard because I'm like, you know,
Felt good.
I'm in a bad place, but this music is kind of soothing to me. So let me go over here and see if I can soothe myself a little bit, you know. And eventually I got off of drugs, you know. And I remember telling you, I had three boys. So my second boy, he was like 5 years old. He just made 20. So he was five at the time, you know, and I'm sitting there looking at him, and I decided, you know what, I got to change my life around. You know, I don't want to set this type of example or leave this type of legacy for them to remember me by. You know, and that was the encouragement that I had to find within myself. You know what I mean? Because too often us as men, we don't like to
Ask for help.
show our weak spots,
Mm,
you know, or show that we vulnerable. You know, we taught, you know, a man not supposed to cry and all of this other nonsense. But the fact of the matter is, we human just like anyone else. You know what I mean? Men have feelings as well. It's just the way we've been taught to view ourselves and our emotions. It's not necessarily always the best way to go about doing things. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
It's not feminine just because you have emotions.
right, exactly.
And men actually should exhibit feminine qualities. We
I
should.
agree.
We need
I
to be
agree.
able to have the masculine side, and we need to be fully rounded. You can't have
Yeah,
one side of the coin, bro, without the other.
you
There
have to
are
have balance.
two sides. So if you can't admit that uh you know if you can't admit that you have feminine qualities, I mean, listen, I'm sitting here talking about feminine qualities. That's feminine. So
Well,
it's just knowing who you are, being okay with that.
what I found to help me along this journey, you know, in my walk was um being truthful to
Hmm.
myself. You know what I mean? And and not being in denial about anything. Like when I was down and out and on drugs and stuff, I was honest to myself. I
Yeah.
didn't lie to myself and, make it seem like I didn't have a problem. Like you knew I had a problem. You know what I mean? It's just no one came to my rescue. You know what I mean? It's like no one gave me any type of encouragement or anything, and that's something else that we as men should look at, because sometimes we can be in damaging relationships, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And we don't have that emotional support to help out whenever, we do get in certain type of situations,
It's true.
because we don't have all the answers as a man. We only have our perspective, but sometimes we as men need encouragement, influence, you know what I'm saying, by others.
I think a lot of people look at it as they don't want to get in people's business, and they don't. And a lot of times it's just because they don't know any better. I think, they don't want to get in people's business, or they don't want to, so-called step on toes. But you know what? Those
Hmm.
people, they probably did know that you knew what the deal was. You said, I knew I wasn't in denial. I knew that I had stuff I needed to
Right.
fix, and I just didn't do it. They probably knew that you knew that, and piling on might not have been the way to go, but you may feel now like anybody that was honest with you, that was willing to stand by you, that would have been all you needed to get there sooner. It's just somebody to believe in you.
Right. Right. Yeah, because it sounds simple, you know what I mean? But it's so powerful, you know what I'm saying? Because you're dealing with people, or you might be dealing with someone, and you don't know their breaking point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We all have a breaking point, and the next person just doesn't know when that is, or when it occurred, or how it happened. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But just by being a positive, encouraging influence, it helps in any area.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like um there's a quote I wanted to quote, but I can't remember it right now, by James Allen. But anyway,
Paraphrase?
there was a there was a quote that I wanted to quote by James Allen,
Mhm.
who says, that weaker men would look for strength in other men, but still, in all, they have to be strong within themselves in order to become a stronger man. It's
Mm.
one thing to see it, but you have to also make those attempts within yourself. But then if you don't see it, you don't have that encouragement. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a
And
it's a
sometimes we be in dark places and we just can't see that, you know, especially for people that have been on drugs in their lives. You rarely have people that it's a lot that don't turn around until they're in jail,
Mhm.
the hospital, or the graveyard, and
And I can
I
attest
just
to this
didn't want
because, this is definitely one of the areas I have a lot of experience in is, recovery, 12-step programs,
right.
kind of thing. Like, I'm used to being around older dudes just because when I invited I needed to invite a couple people to my wedding, and it was like a 6-hour drive. And to get to my wedding, it was a, destination wedding, if you want to call it that. But out of everybody that I could invite, I invited the two dudes that have always stuck by me through my recovery process, and they're both in their 60s. Those were my
Right.
dudes. These are the dudes that had my back. And this is because there's very few people in my age range that qualify as quote figuring it out, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
it's usually older dudes that you get that support from. And it can happen. It can happen with younger generations, but then you got to get past the whole, there's this total stigma about feelings, and you don't get
Mhm.
over that unless you have experience in time,
Right.
and sometimes tragedies. So yeah, I mean, this is it's a hard thing for somebody on the outside to relate to. You have experienced, I mean, I would call it probably the worst thing that you can experience besides dying yourself, you know? And I really think that your strength, man, is completely evident, and in our talks that we have here and there and stuff, man. You're all about just trying to find the positivity,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's the real goal, is to keep trying to find it, to keep searching for it.
Well, I picked up some jewels along the way that I cling to, you know what I mean? And one of them is a quote from Napoleon Hill, and he says that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve,
Absolutely, man.
So
And Bob Ross had
I,
one very similar.
yeah, so I believe that I could do better for myself. And I kept believing that until I actually got better,
Right.
you know. And I mean, just that simple little jewel right there, it helped me a whole lot because I didn't deny where I was and I didn't give up. You know what I mean? I believe that I can move forward and move on beyond all of the tragedy that I've seen in my life. It's like you couldn't even imagine some of the things that I've seen,
Right.
but it's been it's been hard, but I learned along the way music and art, those are some healing tools for me. They can literally make time stop
Yes. Yeah, we're on the same
because
page.
whether you painting or playing music, if you do it long enough, eventually time will stop.
Yes,
you know
I agree.
Next thing you know, it's the next morning or the next day. But I learn to use that to my advantage instead of sitting there and letting my thoughts run wild in my head. I start directing them and focusing them on whether it was playing keys or painting. And I just bounce back from those two. Whenever I feel like I'm finna go into depression, I immediately run to my keys. It's like sanctuary to me. I mean, literally.
So let's talk about that for a second. So
Uh-huh.
you feel when there's a change coming.
Sometimes you can, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes you can't. It's for me. It's more like recurring events, right? Like my son's funeral.
Hmm.
You know, close loved ones that's
Hmm.
passed away. Funerals. Like and as certain seasons come along like that, it just has a emotional effect on me. Like for instance, I give you a good example of my grandmother, like she raised me since I was about 8 years old. She passed away from cancer, but every year Thanksgiving was to her house, you know what I mean? She cooked enough food to feed the whole neighborhood. Everybody came to her house and ate every Thanksgiving. So when Thanksgiving roll around now,
Yeah.
I can't help but remember those times, you know what I mean? And so it's times like that where I just go and just lose it on the keys and just deal with it that way, you know?
And the man has a nice setup, I'll tell you. I've been helping him get some stuff situated, and the man has some nice stuff, and he's in there all the time. So, and then you have a job, you're
Yeah.
taking a break right now, but you still keep up with, you got plans, man. You've got,
Oh,
whether
yes, sir.
it
Absolutely.
might not be like a concrete plan, but you're definitely working towards a plan, and
Yeah.
yeah,
About those uprights, because I have two uprights.
mhm.
And, I had been playing keys for a few years, but this elderly guy decided that he was going to move outside the city limits. He wanted to live in the country. So he lived next door to one of my aunt's house, and he had an upright piano. So he asked my aunt if she knew anyone that would want to take care of it because he was going to throw it away if no one wanted it. So she called me and asked if I wanted to look at it. So I go by and I look at it, and he's like, "Yeah, you can have it. I'm selling the house. I'm getting me a little camper. I'm going in the country off the lake." I was like, "Okay." So I took the piano. Now, in the process of me trying to restore the piano, because it really wasn't that bad, but it needed a little work on it. So I got into learning how to restore it because, it's a beautiful piano. And I'm looking around for parts for it. So I go to another piano store in a few cities over from where I live. And I go in and ask the guy if he had upright piano parts. And, he looks and he says, "Well, what kind of piano is it?" I said, "Well, it's shaped like steps in the front of it." He said, "Well, go in the back in the gallery and see if the one way in the corner is kind of like what you're talking about." So I walked through the gallery of pianos, and there's this green upright piano in the corner, and it looks just like my brown one. So I said, "Yeah, it looks just like the other one." So
That's insane. And
yeah, so he goes on his whole spiel, and he gives me the history of why it's cut like that. And he tells me, well, these pianos used to have paper rolls in them, where this was before the time of radio. And he said when radio came about, people didn't want to throw their pianos away, so they cut the part that holds the roll in it with the little holes, and they made it looks like a step now in the front. And that was the piano. And yeah, he told me, well, if you can move it, you can have that one too.
yeah,
So
I mean that's like,
it actually, it's funny how that happened, because in about 2 weeks time from me getting that first upright piano, I had six pianos in 2 weeks.
yeah, okay. So we went from one OCD quality right to the other.
You're right.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's like
that's awesome. I'm in.
I had
I'm all
it was an elderly Mexican couple. They had a piano. They gave me their piano. They was like, "We just want somebody to take care of these pianos." And I'm like, "Where am I gonna put all of these
in.
pianos?"
know?
You know? But I kept two of them, and I got rid of four. But yeah.
I mean, the roll that comes inside of those, that's kind of like analog MIDI, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You really,
It is.
it plays the notes for you,
Right.
from a
Yeah.
source that's not digital. So
Hmm.
that's an analog MIDI. Analog MIDI.
Yeah.
It's an analog MIDI keyboard.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's a very interesting story. I would like to see these things with the paper still attached with a roll in it. If
Yeah.
something, man, send me some pics, man. I wanna.
I actually seen one like that.
You did.
Yeah, I did see. I actually seen it play, and it looked just like you said. It reminds me because the holes are square in the paper, just like it would
Okay.
show up
Man,
as me.
yeah, that is actually exactly in my mind. That's exactly how I see that. You know,
Yeah,
just like long notes, shorter notes, and then as it goes, it's just gonna play the same song each time, each
right.
roll, right? That's
Yeah,
that's so dope, man. I'm sure there's ways to make your own
yeah.
paper,
I'm sure
your
you
own
can put the roll back. I mean, I don't see why not.
right. That's it.
I'm sure there's a way because I researched them. Because the two that I have, they're like almost 100 years old.
Mm, that's old, man.
Yeah.
That's old.
Yeah, because the green one actually, I forget the name of it on the inside, but I think it's the company that Scott Joplin used to work for, the piano company he worked for.
Oh, I know.
And
Yeah,
Scott
yeah,
Joplin
Joplin.
made Brown Jug.
Mm,
He's got one of the songs that's in every Yamaha keyboard with stock sounds.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got a couple of those, but it's just always interesting how people find ways to cope with different, you know,
Yeah.
different
Yeah,
situations.
that's what I wanted to say. The brown piano, it was my I'm like, I'm gonna recover and restore this piano. But in the process of me doing that, I felt that I was restoring myself
Hmm.
as well. You know what I mean? So it has sentimental value to me because I spent a lot of time changing the felts and the hammers and all
Right.
kind of stuff on the inside of it, you know what I mean? And I kind of felt like that's what I was doing in my personal journey as well. I was
Yeah.
changing a lot of things on the inside of myself at the same time. So yeah, music is very healing, man, and a lot of us we have the tools to do it. Sometimes we just need a little encouragement.
And man, I'll say this too. Like, there's millions of people on the internet right now. There's millions of people checking YouTube videos, looking in the comments. And
Right.
one of the first things that we talked about was the analogy about the hermit crabs. So I'm gonna give this analogy here because if somebody didn't see that video, they'd have no idea what I'm talking about. So I'll just talk about the introverts in the community that I am a part of, which is, I would call it the underground music community. I would call it, all about relationships with people and then the music that they make. And you see people in comments, you see the same people almost everywhere you go. Um, we have the ability to reach out to each other. But if our community is a bunch of introverts, and it is, like, if you are into this type of stuff, you're into making music, you're into you know gear, and you're into this is just an introvert's dream, just to be alone with equipment to learn. And you know maybe you're getting a little artistic satisfaction out of it. I think most introverts want some artistic outlet, whether it's painting or singing or just whatever. So if you compare the introverts to hermit crabs, we all have a shell that we're carrying around with us, and we're loners. We just walk around by ourselves with our shell on. We go around, we do what we got to do, And then, most of the time we're just curled up in there, and we'll peek out, make sure things are good, make sure it's safe. And we look outside and we look around, if we see something that scares us, we just go back in, and we'll come back out again eventually, and we'll look. And if that thing is still there that we thought was scary, we might not be quite as scared, but we're going to go back in again and just chill again for a bit. Come back out again, man. You look around, you see that thing is still there and it hasn't hurt you yet. You might pick your shell up and go for a little walk, And I think introverts, I think we protect ourselves because we know it takes a long time to recover from being hurt, So it's a powerful thing when people can connect with each other outside of the music and be supportive towards each other, even if it has nothing to do with the music itself, like, if I just bought my MPC today and I knew nothing about it, I would still be happy if somebody came in and said, what up, man? I like what you're doing. Keep it positive. Keep going. That's really all you need sometimes. It's just a little tiny bit of encouragement,
Absolutely.
So anybody that does hear this, if you're one of the lurkers, you're one of the crabs with your shell on, and you still haven't, said what's up, just do it, man. There's nothing can happen except for, nothing can happen that you don't want to happen. So if you want to be in an environment where people can hear you, see you, maybe support you, then just, do the thing that's uncomfortable. That's pretty much what it's about. Because, man, this shit, even sitting here talking like this, is uncomfortable as hell. Makes it a little easier that you can't see me, but it's still uncomfortable. So, yeah, man. Well, I mean, was there anything that you wanted to particularly hit on or anything? I mean, because we can pick this up again next time. It's really up to you, man.
I mean, I'd like to say, there's nothing wrong with being an introvert, and we as introverts, we know that, support bases are limited.
It's true.
But this is what this video is about, Even though we're underground, I still like to say, we airwavers.
Right.
We riding these airwaves now. So, it's not much to, if you need somebody to talk to, somebody to make a little music with, some art, anything, that's just what this video is for. We're reaching out to other inverted men that may be thinking that there's something wrong with being an invert. Nah, you okay.
Yep.
You fine. We out here. It's like I told Will, hey, we out here, we see you,
Absolutely.
So hopefully somebody else see this, or hear this, and
and
it helps them.
And we'll hold it up until you get here.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
We're not going nowhere.
We're not going anywhere.
We're gonna be here, and I mean, we just getting better and better at trying to provide for the community as a whole. You know what I mean? We're all human. We all have issues, and it's about helping one another. So hey, if we can help, that's what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, we're learning to communicate. We're learning to find time for people. We're learning to, we're learning structure. I mean, this is a growth process, and I did a little video to tell people on my other channel that you can come here and be a part of this. And I was just saying, a healthy community, a healthy, strong community of talented artists is a hard thing to stop. So people are supporting each other, and people are being creative, and that's priceless, man. I mean, that's really what it's about for me. And one day, maybe, who knows, maybe we can get some people paid we got a lot of work to do before, you know, before we're ready for that. So I guess that's it, man. I guess that's it. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling good, man. You want me to give you some keys to go out with? I know you want to put this in
Yeah,
that X you got over there or something.
yeah, I do actually. We'll get that after we get off, and then play us out here, and then I will get some keys from you. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm gonna say what up to everybody. Thank you for being here. Go ahead, man. Do your thing. Thank you for being here. Hey, come back here next week again. See, this is the raw. If you next raw and notification, I'll try to keep it, you know, keep it relevant. Try to keep things fine. Before I sign out of here, go ahead and check the live chat, um, and you can uh, leave us some feedback in the comments, or just get in touch. You can hit me up at iwill.music@gmail.com if you need to talk about anything. That's I'll leave it in the comments after the video posts. All right, peace, everybody.
Peace.